Welcome to the Trusted Podcast with your host, Blake Johnson. In each episode, Blake interviews professionals in different areas of life that you need a trusted source of information, including trust and estate planning. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, trustedepa.com. Now, here's the host of Trusted Podcast, Blake Johnson.
Hello and welcome to the Trusted Podcast. Great to be with you again today. Super excited about this episode. Usually we're talking with the people who are the face of their businesses, the ones who are doing the interacting. But today we're going to be talking about finding the right personal assistant. And so I brought in Oriya Hirschhorn, and she is the personal assistant for Chad Willardson. He owns Pacific Capital and also runs Platinum Elevated coaching for entrepreneurs. And she's also an entrepreneur herself, and which I did not know. So tell me a little bit about that first to start.
So I own a Duffy Harbor cruise company. Basically my family had a Duffy that was run down, and I was out one day with a bunch of friends and my husband was driving it, and we saw a group of girls driving a rented Duffy, and they crashed into another boat. And I looked at my girlfriends and I said, I'm going to make a business out of this where they will be able to rent a Duffy and they will have a driver, and then it will be a completely different experience. And I went to my dad and I said, can I have the Duffy? And he goes, give me X amount. I said, sure. And I started this business called See Senorita Duffy, where yes, my niche is females, but it has blown up and I was able to bring in my creativity into it and start a business that was missing in our Newport Beach Harbor. And now I have corporate events on the boats. I have lots of bachelorettes. I love owning a business that I call my own, and I can grow it. My mom is my partner who I love the most. So we each have our roles. And that now I opened in November of 2023. So we are going on almost 2 years.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. It's always fun to take that step.
Yes.
Let's take a step back. Let's talk about the journey towards, you being the assistant to Chad, and kind of what makes you really qualified in that role, and why we're talking to you essentially.
Perfect. So I am a first generation American. My parents immigrated in 1979, and my dad was an entrepreneur from the get-go. He found something that was missing and went after it in America, barely speaking any English. And I learned a lot from him. And I saw that he tried to do everything on his own, and that was not the best way to do things. And I started my career basically as an EA at the age of 14 when I had a work permit. And it was an EA to a lady that had a recruiting company. And I remember sitting down one day helping her with something, and she looked at me and she goes, how long have you worked for me? And I said, a month. And I was creating a system and a process for her that I guess nobody thought of. And she's like, and this is, I'm not going to age myself, but this is a long time ago. And she said, I'm giving you $1 raise. And at 14, to have $1 raise when you're getting, like, now it's like a joke, but I was so blown away that I was like, this is my career. I am going to support the number one, because in essence, I am that person that everybody has to come to that helps them achieve their goals. And it was so fulfilling that I just knew that that was going to be my path. It was being that assistant to a CEO entrepreneur, and realizing that we are their right hands and we're not just a glorified secretary. So I started at 14, and then I worked for, I went to school, I worked throughout school. When I graduated, my dad basically told me, now it's the real world. No more credit card, no more nothing for you. So get a good job and, find your way in the world. And I worked at a school, actually, a private, oh gosh, what's it called? It was a private education school that was K through 12, and I was the assistant to the headmaster. I came in as a temp, and for 3 months, he was like, you are going to be my assistant. And I didn't realize back then, until I actually met Chad, that my then boss really put me in situations that he saw that gave me energy. So not only was I his assistant, but I also got into doing a lot of different things like teaching, working on their newsletters, creating their marketing guides. And it opened me up to an EA's position and how much more you can do and achieve by being next to somebody that's the visionary.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a lot of questions now. Let's start with myths about an EA. Like, I think people think they either need to have, X big amount of company or X amount of income or all these different things. What are the biggest myths you see about one, getting an EA, and then once someone has one, that they don't utilize or that they think or is the wrong way of looking at things?
I think that people truly don't realize how impactful an EA is. And then they think that it's going to be too expensive, or they feel like they can do it all. And they're like, well, I can do my calendar, or I can book a flight or do this. But we're not just booking flights and doing your calendar. We are problem solvers. We are taking all the unnecessary tasks that you should not be concentrating on and completing those, but also helping you problem solve, helping you really focus on what you need to focus on, which is creating the vision, understanding that you are keeping them on track, not letting the entrepreneur get distracted. And you don't need to start, you can be one person. You still need an EA, or you don't have to have a company of 50 employees. Being one person and being able to put your energy into building, whereas the other person puts their energy into everything else that, yes, you can do on your own. But why waste those hours when we can free up those hours for you? So I feel the biggest myth for people when it comes to EAs is they don't give them enough credit. They think they are, like I said, glorified secretaries. We are so much more than that. We are connecting the dots. We're spotting opportunities for them. We're brainstorming with them. We are we're proactive in not waiting for things to happen. Really fixing things as before they even need to be fixed. So that, I think, is a big misconception. And you don't need to pay them. Yes, there are a lot of different levels of executive assistants. You don't need to start with a top EA. In essence, that's 6 figures. But if you grow and you find an EA that you can really bounce ideas off of, that sees your vision, that is on your rocket ship, like Chad likes to say, you will thrive.
Yeah, it's interesting how when I hired my first assistant, this was, I think, 2 years into practicing law. I hired probably the worst person because I had no idea what I was doing with hiring, still figuring that out. But even with that, with hiring the worst person, I ended up firing her 4 months later. I still immediately was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I free up my time to be able to go meet with more clients, or, do more events, do more speaking things, those things that had real impact, which is what my gift was. And, I think another myth that we think about is, as entrepreneurs, we think that no one wants to do that stuff. Like, I can't hand that off to somebody. But as we were talking before the show, you don't like doing the podcast. That's not your area, So I appreciate you coming on. But so just because I like to be in front of the camera or talking to people doesn't mean that's for everybody. But it's the same thing. It doesn't, just because I don't want to do the scheduling and the coordinating and all that stuff, doesn't mean there's not someone out there who does want to do those things and can really thrive in that environment.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that especially as you grow if the entrepreneur does not know, or the CEO or whoever's hiring an executive assistant, if they don't mesh well with the executive assistant, in a sense, if the personalities don't mesh, if the EA is giving pushback, if there's not an harmonious coming together, it won't work. It doesn't. Some EAs, they're very like tactical. We are going to do this, 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 and this. You really learn your personality and what goes well with who's hiring you. And sometimes EAs work and sometimes they don't, but then you learn from that and you see maybe you need to give better direction. Maybe, you don't want to give control up on something. That's another big thing is Chad is very good at saying, I don't want to do this. You do it. Like, he's very good at saying where he wants to be, what he sees me doing, and trusting me. It's a lot of building of trust, and really you have to love being an EA to give your best to your entrepreneur. So I really feel like it's not a job anymore. It's a puzzle. Everything is a puzzle, and finding a way to make things fit nicely for them.
Okay, perfect. What are the things that the biggest issues with how an entrepreneur works with an EA, as far as like things they shouldn't be passing off, or, you mentioned they say they pass something off, but they actually keep their hands in it and they keep taking it back. That's for one thing. What are some other areas where people make mistakes with working with their EA?
I think my big thing is micromanaging. I feel like some entrepreneurs really have a hard time letting go of certain things. They want to, they just don't know how to. And once they are able to say to themselves, okay, let's start off small, give something to the EA, see how they run with it, but keep your hands in it a little bit, and then build that trust with them so that you're able to give them bigger things and bigger things and bigger things, and really letting go. So Chad has a way of, we have this 4-step delegation process. It's basically, he has an idea. That's how he wants it to happen. We're going to follow his lead. That's it. No questions asked. The third way, he delegates it. He'll take our recommendations, but in the end, he's still going to do it. We're still going to end up doing it his way. The third way is he has an idea. We speak about it. We give our ideas. He'll go either way. Can be our idea. He'll say, hey, that's better. Let's go with your way of thinking. Go take it. The last way is, this is what I want. Make it happen. But if you need to do anything else in between, totally fine. That's yours. Just know this is kind of like what I want. And then you can go with it. So it's a really good, he'll say, we're going with D. I'm like, I got it. So.
Yeah, I think setting clarity for sure is a big thing. And it's, like you said, it's going to be over time.
Yes.
You know, it's not going to come in day one. You're going to know exactly how to work with each other. It's, you know, it's probably some of those things that has evolved over time. And, you know, I've definitely noticed that with mine, like, okay, you've got this down, great. Now we can go to the next level of this. And that's what it's about. But I think, the biggest mistake I've seen is they don't utilize their EAs enough. They think, oh, this is beneath them, or this isn't something I can just pass off to someone. And it's like, they're eager to take stuff off. Like, hey, let me do that. Let me take this off your plate so you can go do the stuff that you need to do, and have less stress. And then everybody's happier.
Yeah. It comes down to the micromanaging and being afraid to let go as well of that stuff. And the biggest thing in the first month, I feel, when you do hire a new EA is learning how you like to communicate. It's such a big thing. So in that month, when they're coming on, you know, you do want to pass off a lot of things to them, but then you're like, oh, I don't want to overwhelm them, or I don't want them to feel like, you know, I'm just throwing tasks at them. It's really important that the EA understands how you like to be communicated towards. So with Chad, he hates homework. Do not read an email, screenshot it, or forward it to him. He likes to talk it out. You call him, you say, hey, I have a list of things to discuss. This is what it is. Do not send him a link that he has to fill out. He's like, what do I have you for? So it's really important to understand your entrepreneur's communication style, because that is what's going to get you the furthest with them. And then they're also going to feel more secure in passing off these tasks to you.
So I'd like to do kind of like a list of things that people should do in preparation for getting an EA. So I'm hearing, you know, figure out one, how, you know, for the entrepreneur, how do you like to communicate? Write that out. I'd say, you know, figure out what stuff you want to pass off that you're willing to give up, that you need help with, kind of make that list.
Huge list.
So those are the two things I've heard from our discussion. What else do you think they should do before they hire someone? Because I think they need to have those things done first, so that when they're talking with, you know, potential hires, they can communicate that and find out, okay, these are the person who likes to do these things and can help me with that. But what else should we add to that list?
So Chad likes to do a lot of assessments. And if you understand how to read the assessments, which now that with AI, you can put these assessments into any Chat GPT, Perplexity, and just say, give me more of an idea into this person's personality. There's no right or wrong answer. It's, what does your, again, communication style, personality-wise, mesh well when it comes to an EA, right? So we hire very slowly. And I feel when it comes to an EA, you have to mesh well personally. You're going to talk to this person day in and day out. They have to bring you energy. They have to build you up. They have to be on your rocket ship. So another thing would be looking into some assessments where it's more personality based. So we do a Colby A, we do print survey, we have Gallup strengths, or Clifton strengths, it's called Gallup. And then we do, the third one is Working Genius. And those assessments really break down the EA as a person. You start to see, what triggers them. And I believe all entrepreneurs should do this as well. All CEOs, everybody should take these assessments, because you learn a lot about where your energy gets drained, what lifts you up, what's going to make you feel so powerful. And so Chad and I we have a very similar print, what brings us energy and what makes us happy. And so when he's coming in an idea with me, I am just like, I got it. I know what I want to do. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like the positivity, so a lot of it is meshing well, personality wise. Another thing that I would suggest when it comes to entrepreneurs and hiring the EAs, what they should look for is really understanding them in a business setting, but also like taking them out to lunch for an hour, just really talking to them and focusing on things that could possibly trigger you, when you're talking to this person on a daily basis, or things that, you're like, oh, okay, this person's going to bring me, we're going to have some big ideas, and they're going to be that person that's going to have my back in the business world. So yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the assessments. A lot of times we as entrepreneurs think we know what we like and what brings us energy, or, we don't know how to quantify it or say it. And then you take that, you're like, and you read your assessment, like, oh yeah, that's me for sure. Oh yes, that's what I've been trying to say. That's what what it is. So yeah, even if you're not hiring an EA, do it for yourself. Some great enlightenment there.
Yes.
But then making sure that those personalities work. It's not saying that they're a bad person or that they're a bad hire.
Mm-mm.
But they're a bad hire for that position. Like you want to make sure they're in the right seat and that they can actually help you with that.
Yes, that is the key. And I've been through a couple hiring processes with Chad, and I've learned a lot with these assessments. And at first I was like, it's just an assessment. But putting it into ChatGPT, so we would put like Chad's numbers, my numbers, the other EA's numbers, and it is so on point. Like you realize things that you're like, you normally wouldn't do in an initial interview. So I'm a big advocate for that.
Okay. We're just about out of time. So like to end with best advice you've ever been given.
Oh gosh. The best advice I've ever been given. Stay true to yourself. It's sometimes there are things that an entrepreneur will give you or your boss will tell you to do, and it can be like, I don't know, something that you're like, wow, I don't really do that. I want to do that. And you can stay true to yourself and say, you know what, this is something that I'm not going to do, and you have that open conversation and you're fine. But stay true to who you are. Really stay true to who you are as a person in business and in personal.
Awesome. I think it's a great way to end. So thank you again for coming on. Lots of really good things in here. Hopefully our entrepreneurs listen to this and take some good notes and they find their own Oriya. As Chad always likes to say, you can't have her, but you can find your own.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you again, and we'll catch you guys next time.
No, thank you, Blake.
You've been listening in to the Trusted Podcast with your host, Blake Johnson. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, trustedepa.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Please subscribe to make sure you are notified each time a new episode is released each week.